and let me not rely on my own memory. Let's just check out over here. So one of these models, it allows you to kind of define all the fields, whereas the other one kind of allows you to extend it, right? Now which one is which, let us figure out. Again, when you're coding, you don't remember everything. You definitely Google all the time. It's pretty normal. You're not alone, right? I Google simple stuff all the time. So because at the end of the day, how much are you going to cram in your head? Yeah, one little head, and how much are you going to cram into it, right? So it's better to Google it out, and that's okay. Knowing where to look is an important thing to have, but not knowing everything by heart is fine. It's absolutely fine. So abstract behavior, the easiest way to construct a compliant customer user model is to inherit from abstract base user. Abstract base user provides a core implementation user model. Okay, so the abstract base user has the user model in it. What you can probably also do is, for example, in this scenario, right? Take a look at the class my user. It will have all the fields that the user model typically has, but it will have a couple of extra fields. So for example, there will be an identifier in there as well, right? So what it confirms is that the abstract user wouldn't have all the fields that you typically have in the users, and then you have to define everything on your own. And if you inherit from abstract base user, what it means is it is going to allow you to add custom fields above and beyond what's there in the user model. Which also brings me to another point. If you look at Python and search for ABC, which basically stands for abstract base class. So in Python, there is no concept of interface, but let's say you want to implement some sort of a protocol or interface. How do you do that? Well, you do that using the abstract base class, right? So you typically define your class, but then when you define a meta class in it, you specify abstract is equal to true, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just check. Abstract is, where did it go? Is abstract, let's just check. Class meta. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, but let's just check. Might be wrong. Class meta abstract is equal to true. Okay, my bad. So this class meta abstract equal to true is possibly only applicable to Django and not to Python. But probably if you want to do it in the Python land, then probably you can use the ABC class, right? Let's just look at it. This module provides official for abstract names to discuss, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so that's it. So the abstract is equal to true is kind of true for Django models, but if you want to do something similar in Python, it is most likely going to be you need the inherit from the ABC class, right? So cool. I learned something new today. All right. So it has the accounts, it has the aggregator, it has the blog, it has the contact, it has dashboard, docs, whole bunch of other stuff, right? And yeah, common looks pretty solid. Yeah, I believe the logging section is defining all the different log formats in the logging level. That's what it's doing. Middlewares, right? If you're already a basic, let's say if you're already at a basic level of knowledge in Django, and if you want to kind of upgrade or level up your knowledge, you should definitely know 2 or 3 things. One is the Django's response request cycle. So Django has this request response cycle, right? Look at this fancy diagram. And in fact, I believe that this is typically like an interview question for most of the companies, right? So I've heard that they ask questions like, hey, what happens when you type in www.google.com, right? What happens under the code? And then they expect you to kind of know everything from interrupts to memory buffers to kernel to network protocol and their implementation and back and forth, right? Whole bunch of things, right? The whole shenanigan. So similarly, anytime you want to level up your knowledge, do check out the Django request response cycle. There's this whole cycle that happens anytime you go to a web application running in Django. This is the whole cycle, right? So typically you would have your client, that is your browser, talking to the web server, right? Now I'll explain what WSGI is in some time, but just bear with me, right? So the client sends information to the web server sends to the WSGI, goes to the middleware. This is where the middleware does its own magic. Then it goes to the URL resolution. So all the regular expressions that you have defined in urls.py get resolved onto a view. Again, views in Django are of two types. You have your what do you call it, class based views as well as function based views. uh, then it goes to the view, again goes to the middleware, goes to the template kind of renders, generates a response, goes to middleware again, and then there is your response back to the client from WSGI to web server and client, right? So let me take a moment and also explain what is web server, nginx, and WSGI, right? So what is, when you run python manage.py run server, what is actually happening is that your web application using the Django framework gets executed, but under the hood it's all Python process for all you care. It spins off a Python process, correct? Now what if I want to run that Django application with say Apache, right? So as I mentioned, nginx is not the only way by which you can get your Django applications into production, but Apache is also the another one. So for decoupling the web server and the web application, we have this thing called WSGI, which stands for Web Service Gateway Interface. And these days it's fancy. There is something called as ASGI, which is Asynchronous Standard Gateway Interface, if I'm not mistaken. ASGI. I think ASGI is getting used by Fast API. I'll have to check. But the decoupling is possible because of these two components, right? The web server itself and the WSGI. So that's a brief, I would say, of how it works. But yeah, if you're an intermediate developer, definitely you should know what middleware is, how it works, and probably how to write your own middleware. It's a different story. In a typical use case, you don't come in contact with writing your own middleware, but yeah, if you want to do something fancy or you want to do it in a maintainable way, it is definitely recommended. And I would say out of 10 projects, only one project that I know of kind of uses it. So that's a kind of divide. All right, let's go back. So whole bunch of other things out over here. We looked at the models in here. Let's just look at the other things. And one more thing that helps us when we are doing the code review is to have look at the actual application. So let's look at the blog section out over here. Do we have a blog somewhere here? Don't have a blog here. Let's just see about community, and in community we have a blog, I believe. Where is the blog, man? Where's the blog? There is the blog. Community blog post. Okay, now we don't know where the blog is getting used, so there's a hack, right? You go to blog, go to the URL spy, and you try to kind of find out over here, right? So my guess is there an application level URLs? Let's just check. Not able to find it, right? So what are we going to do? Let me check. Our settings. Anything interesting here? Nope, nothing here. Not in here. All right, let's just try to brute force and see if we find it. Let's see if I just put in blog, what happens. Nothing happened out over here. All right, let's just use Django blog. Let's see what comes up. Django community blogs. Okay. Nope. Read the post and content. Nope. It's coming from a different place. Okay. How else can we find it? Go to blog, go to URLs, blog daily archive, blog date view, blog month archive view, and year. So Let's just look at, okay, one more important tip. When you're doing code reviews, you don't know what to look for, you can definitely use search. So what we're going to do out over here is going to see if there is like a blog.url somewhere. Seems to, okay, it seems like it. All right, so www.py is okay. So okay, remember how I was talking about having an application level URL. So what will happen is you would have a URL per application, but then at the main root application level, you would kind of include these different URLs, right? So blog will have its own set of URLs, the download section will have its own set of URLs, so on and so forth. So in this case, the blog is actually web blog. Let's just check. In the main file is www.py file. This is where all the references to the other URLs are kind of included, if you can think about it that way. So let's go to Django community project out over here and just type web blogs or web blog. What was it? Web. Hold on. Web log. It's not double, it's single. There we go, right? So we found it. And these are all the URL mappings. So let's say if we put in weblog 2017, how does it work? Let's just trace it. So it goes to weblog and then it kind of looks for URL in blog.url. Let's just search for it and go into the here. So the view that gets called is the blog here archive view. Let's just, and this is a class based view. Let's just go look at the definition of it. And it's interesting. All right. So it has a blog view mixin and a yearly archive view. So let me take a step back and explain you what are mixins and what are decorators and how does it relate to, say, the class based view and the function based views. When you're working with class based views and you want to have like some sort of a wrapping logic around it, you typically use mixins, right? And if you have a function based views, you do it with decorators, right? So you have this stuff like @something that happens with the function based views. So let's look at the mixin, blog view mixin. What exactly does it do? Also, let's look at the archive index view, right? It must be somewhere here. So archive index view, I'm looking at it for the first time. Archive index view, what is it? Holy cow, I'm learning something new. Archive index view Django.